Welcome to a special version of 216. I'm Laoria, normally your editor, and I'm joined by the rest of JKLoL, Jesse and Kaesden. Say hi.
Hi.
Hello.
And we also have a special guest who is not really a special guest because this is his podcast in the first place, but we do have fearagent in the booth with us as well. Hey.
I feel special.
You should feel special, but also I feel special because this is cool. So I know Fear teased about having a kind of special kind of thing going on here. He had asked and invited JKLoL to kind of do a little bit of a weekly recap here. So we're excited. This is our first one, of course, so, you know, this will be interesting to see what happens. But I know, you know, week one had a lot going on with the co-op 80 KDB or all dungeons key drop boots. I know there's been a lot of takes on it, but I guess let's start with talking about our races. So I know game one, Jesse and I versus Fear and Jammo. Dude, Jammo's just scary at this game.
I feel super lucky to be on his team, to be honest. Like this key drop mode is interesting. I didn't play obviously in the tournament that was just held recently, and so key drop is just, it's intimidating, and keeping track of all the logic is really tough. So having someone like Jammo, who shortly has become one of the top runners in the community, keep track of all the logic and tell me what's going on and how many keys I need for everything has been super helpful.
Yeah, I know, Jesse, you were kind of our ringer for both.
Yeah, I've been calling it like the quarterback position of this mode. Like, I think you have one person on the team who's kind of like got that sense and that just knowledge or paying attention to that side of things throughout these races. And you kind of need that for this mode, is like somebody who's able to keep that overhead view at all times.
Especially when you have a goldfish like me on the team. Like, comes to mind, remember that flute we had in pod in our race? It was like, oh, there's our fourth pod small. It's in logic yet. You're like, no, it's not. Remember where the keys were.
That's so hard in this mode. It's so hard to pay attention to logic, and logic is super important in this mode.
It really is.
And trying to keep track of all of it, because you're sharing the information. It's one thing to process the information as you get the keys, but to remember, oh yeah, we also have 2 pod keys over here. We have 3 swamp keys over here. It's tough.
Yeah, I definitely think that there was a lot to track with this. I'm curious, Fear, on y'all's side, did you guys have like a shared document or anything that you guys were doing to help kind of keep track of like things in dungeons, like key locations, things like that?
We did 2 things. We had a shared document, literally just a Google Doc, blank Google Doc. I was going to try to put together like a spreadsheet or something, but just never got around to it. So it was just a blank piece of paper. And then we always kept our VODs ready to go, like our actual, not the stream, but the actual VOD to pull up in case we ever needed to reference back to a key location, mainly.
Yeah, I could see having that open ahead of time. Like, if you do have to go to it and you have to bring it up on top of that, that's a lot of work. So
so being prepared to bring that up was always like something that we had ready to go, just because it's so, like, trying to go back, like if you're going to your actual Twitch VOD, I think is a lot slower. And just having that folder basically ready in case you need to do it. And we did it a couple different times where let me check the VOD real quick, see where this item was or this key was.
I want to say in both of our races, we had to do a VOD check also. I think I had to go back to check where I got a Hyrule Castle small, and it was on Catfish, if I remember right. And then I think Jesse, Kaesden, you guys had mentioned doing the same in your race.
I don't know if Jesse looked for, it was a GT Big Key. Yeah. We had remembered there was something in the middle of Skull Woods. It's like, yeah, that could wait till later, and became out of sight, out of mind until.
That's the worst ones. Like, I need it later.
Yeah,
those are the worst.
Yeah, that was the biggest challenge I think I felt like we ran into, is like whenever we would make a decision, it's like, okay, that's important, but it's not important enough to rush it right now. and then having to remember it. Like those were the things that I would try to focus on writing down. It's like, okay, well, if you're not going to be on your way to get this in the next, 5 minutes, I need to write it, because if you ask me 10, 15 minutes from now, there's a good chance I'm not going to remember.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We had that GT big, like you can watch back the race, and we talked about it in the interview with, was that
Me
you
and my NDM.
Randy? Yeah, we talked
Yeah.
with you about it, and like the thing was that if you missed the race, spoiler, the fire rod was in GT, and like, you tell your partner like, hey, we're gonna get the fire rod before Ganon's tower. It's okay, like you'll get that pot later. You're gonna have to go kill the moth. Don't worry about it. And then you finally arrive at the point where you're in GT mode, and you're like, out of sight, out of mind. By far, like it just wasn't a thing. So yeah, we're not talking about it. And then
Yeah, I find myself on the mountain. I was like, wait, I'm climbing up to go there. It's like, I don't have the GT big. It's like, well, I guess I'm going to TR, and we're just crossing our fingers, hoping that's where it is. If it is, we're okay. If it's not, like, well, you can't, if I have to flute, mirror and flute back to go get it now, like giving up so much time, you can't do that. Not against, like, your guys' team is so good. Like, you can't afford to just throw time away like that. So
No, you really can't. I want to say too, that was something along the lines of what we brought up too, was you had found Thieves 3. Wasn't the powder in TR?
In TR, I think, from the first dip. I want to say it was like either on the pokey or on the right side or something, but that was an earlier dip. So it's like, I decided that I'll check this real quick while I go clear up Thieves Town, just because I can, and like Fire Rod might have been in there. You get that small key and you're like, oh, this is cool. If this is a thing, this could be huge. And it would have been huge, but turned out I think it was just like $20 or a piece of heart or something completely worthless.
Something irrelevant. Yeah, it was. It doesn't matter what it was. It wasn't the fire rod, and that was the like one out you guys needed. And then I think maybe like 5-ish minutes later on the restream, Jammo found the fire rod in pre-mold ornaments. Like, well, okay.
That's go mode.
Yep. But that seed had a lot of pendant dungeons after doing the climb and doing CT. Because I think you guys had to go back up for TR, and you had to do Skull Woods. And I think a couple people had to also do Thieves. So
I think Jammo had mentioned Thieves was not done on his side in the interview. Right. So yeah.
Like, imagine beating GT, climbing CT, and still having to do like 2 or 3 pendant dungeons before you can like murder the pig. So
oh yeah, I think I was just starting or partway through my climb when the final done came. It's like, yeah, I still have to do this. Then I have to go to TR. Then I have to go to Skullwoods. Like, and I had like a tower on top of that. It's like, I have a lot left. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to spend another 10, 15 minutes finishing this out when the result's already in. So
imagine if you had remembered you had a mirror in Ice Palace.
I mean, that's not saving 15 minutes, but
no, it's not.
that was funny. Like, I didn't even realize, like, a lot of the times if I do something like that, I'll realize right as I do it. It's like, wait, that was stupid. I had no idea. It didn't even dawn on me.
It was so funny, dude. So unfortunately, we got swept this week, but
fortunately.
Look, no, sir. Fortunately for you, I guess.
Perspective is a hell of a drug.
It sure is.
Yeah, true. But
it's tough. Yeah, like, I was worried. Like, you going into these invitational races, splitting is always like best case scenario. Because
really,
you have, I just have so much respect for you guys as runners. So to come out 2-0 feels like a real lucky win. So
yeah, I think we went in hoping to get a split, but knowing that the 0-2 was a very distinct possibility. And then seeing that Jammo was doubling up, I think was kind of like the, oh boy, like, because again, like, I hate to say kid,
I'm
but
washed.
Like
I'm washed, so it makes sense.
I mean, you said it, not me. But also, no, more than anything, I think part of it is like he's newer to the scene and has just been on a tear, both like ladder and the various tournaments. Like, kid's been putting in the work and it's showing.
Yes.
I said it. He's a kid in the sense of newer to rando. He's a rando kid, but not a rando kid. You know what I mean?
Listen to 216. You might hear a story coming up.
Yes. I can't wait. I literally cannot wait. I want to know more about him. I told him during the interview that we weren't friends yet, but I'm going to work on that.
Our seed was interesting because it was that stupid Samaria. You know, it was like the first, who can last locate Samaria first? And I think we just were able to pull things together just a little bit quicker and get to Samaria. But putting something behind the very top of Aga Tower is, I think, the worst case version of this mode, where it's like, I think both of the teams dipped Castle Tower with 2 keys.
Something
so you
like
get as
that.
far as you can. Yeah. And so it's one item and you got to climb all the way back up, and you can't even clear it because you don't have the 4th key. So when are you going to do it? And was that key, I think, was in Swamp. That third
Mix
key.
in there too in CT? Or was that a practice race?
I can't remember at this point. I just remember being scarred by Samaria.
Yes. Yeah.
I just know, like, Castle Tower in this mode, depending on when you choose to go in, whether you go in super early with 1 key just to get a couple early checks, or you wait till you have 3, like, there's not a universal right answer.
Yeah.
It's so hard to know, because you could climb it with 3, and about the time you're getting to Circle of Pots, your partner is like, oh, I just found CT4. It's like, welp.
Right. That's the other problem with this mode is you're
like,
climbing
I just wasted
CT
an entire climb of Castle Tower. You give up, that's a minute and a half, 2 minutes at least.
I did read along this line of like AT, like of Castle Tower. I have been kind of following some of the like lead feedback channels, and I did see a funny one when I was reading through today from Garrison saying, I think it's funny that we went from playing 80 keys but removing the Castle Tower small shuffle to now having to go find 4 Castle Tower smalls.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's co-op, so it's different, but I find that funny. Like, we've kind of done a big old flip-flop with that for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse.
I mean, this is the first one I've actually had a decision on, you know, the main tournament going with the fads and the ads and the whatevers, like mixing it up on their end. Like, this was my first chance to have a say on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kaesden, you gonna just take that as a main tourney admin? Just, you know, the fads and the ads, bads?
I mean, we just added boots to 80 keys.
It's a good counter. That's a good counter. Jesse did give us boots
I know
as well.
there were thoughts on the main tournament modes, but I think 80 keys with boots was at least well received.
I mean, I think most of the community is pretty pro boots. I don't think that every mode should start with boots.
No.
But I think that there's a strong positive sentiment for boot start modes.
Yeah. Just in general.
But yeah, for sure to GG to 3 off the tee for this week. I know we talked about how like it's so fun to be able to play against friends. And so like it was super fun to just like chat it up, mess with each other as, you know, one does. Like you gotta, you know, shitpost a bit. But like I had fun this week. Despite the L, like I had a really fun time. I'm so glad to just play again, dude.
Yeah, it's fun. It's hard to shit talk when you win because I don't want to sound like an asshole. but yeah, I'll do my best.
I mean,
and I think that's fair. It's one of those things. It's like, I know, you know, I took that loss on the first game, and then I think the next day, like Dante lost a race, and then I knew Lumaga had Lumaga raced and didn't have a win. Like, as a group of admins, it was a rough go for us.
Rightfully so, right?
I know people want to shit talk it. Like, we chose the modes, and like we're the ones who got just, you know, I lost both of mine. Dante only raced 1 and he lost. Lumaga raced 1 and he lost. Like, out of those 4, we went 0-4. I think the only admin to get a win this week was Amerith.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like I get the shit talk. It doesn't bother me, like, especially if it's a friend, like, you know,
Sure.
Fear, I've listened to your takes on the things, and you know, I respect your position at this as the, you know, the creator of League to start with, and you know how we're changing your baby in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And like, but like I know in general, like I can take it as a joke between the two of us as, you know,
Yeah.
guys who are gonna do that to each other. Like I think if it
Sure.
was
Yeah.
like I've also seen some other takes, and it's going to be hard for me to be like to take it the same way if somebody else has a hot take, just because like I don't
Sure.
have that relationship with them.
Yeah. It's one thing to shit talk when you're friends. The other part is criticism is not also shit posting, right? Like my criticism of the League isn't personal. It's not that I think that the 5 admins are shitty admins or shitty people. I just think they made poor decisions, and that's a different than even just trying to be an asshole about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've made my feelings known on the League this season, and yet here I am playing in the League still. So
I will say, when I saw the sign up, I was a little surprised. I was like, I'm happy, and at the same time, I'm like, oh.
I was surprised too. I was a little surprised too.
No one's more surprised than Fear.
Yeah, it was a little shocking to me, and I tried to get out of it right before the season 2, but that didn't work. So I am here, and I'm having fun. Like I think
no dodge.
The actually playing of the games this week, I think the start of the League, I don't know, calmed it down a little bit, where it's just like, yeah, let's just play and have fun, right? Like we can bitch and argue in mode.
The fun parts are still there of just playing with friends and
right.
Even with the complexity of AD KDB, it's still co-op with your buddies, and it's
totally
it's a lot of fun. When the stupid stuff, like the dumb shit happens, it's just it's like you have to be able to just kind of laugh and roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you get a little too invested, like then salt can start coming in, and it can be hard. But you just have to kind of roll with whatever happens and move on.
Totally. Yeah, it was fun to watch a lot of races this week too. Like I did the kickoff race with Clearmouse, and that was a lot of fun. That Dante match that you were talking about was really interesting because that was against, I want to say, Armalex and IB Karma, and there was a sword on Catfish. And the big difference was there was a sword on Catfish, and Andy climbed CT without that sword because they hadn't got the information yet. He had all 4 keys, but wasn't able to complete it because he didn't have a sword. There was nothing in there, and that set him back like quite a bit.
And that's the thing we talked about. You know, I calmed both those races, and one of the things is like, you know, we talked about this about the GT Big Key for Kaesden my race, and it's one of those things is you get to a place and you're like, where was that key I was supposed to have?
Yep.
And Andy had that moment in both those races, and the sword was the big one for that first game. The second, but in each of those games, like he, you know, we joked about the fact that he was in the back of Desert and the back of Skull, short 1 key in each race, and it was like, you know, that's just a difficult spot to get kind of put into.
It's just hard. It's just a hard mode. Like whether or not it's a good mode, I guess, is subjective, but it's just a difficult mode because, I mean, let's face it, key drop is relatively new-ish as far as a racing mode goes. Even with me being gone most of the year last year, like I didn't see a lot of key drop tournaments, right? Like we had just had one recently, and I think that was the first one. And so it's
I think that was the first tournament to use key drop at all.
Yeah, so it's
outside of like people occasionally running some asyncs here and there,
right?
Doing AVNR things,
right? And so
it's like, you know what you're signing up for with AVNR. It's like
totally, it's different.
You're getting bullshit.
Yeah, totally. And so it's new, and so the information is still fresh. And then you throw co-op into it, and it's just something that is. I keep hearing it compared to co-op cross keys, and it just feels honestly so different than co-op cross keys. I know there's a worry that co-op cross keys is too hard, but having run the 216 co-op cross keys tournament, that was never a complaint that it was too hard. And I think it comes down to not playing key drop. Like the reason
Yeah.
co-op cross keys can happen and not be as difficult as people think is because cross keys is like the most raced mode, I think. So people are familiar with it. Key drop is not the most raced mode. So when you throw co-op into it, it just makes it more difficult.
I'd say too, just from our practices, and like we've practiced some co-op cross keys, Jesse and I have, but I want to say like with co-op cross keys, a lot of the like stress of it is very much in the early game of tracking all the things in Kakariko, all the things that are in South Shore or the Eastern region, you know, and then when you first get to Dark World, things there, and then of course Mountain being its thing. But like once you have that initial rush of things, it's a lot more manageable, I feel like.
I think there's also something that's like with cross keys, you're going to be taking notes by design when you're marking all your entrances and what's where. Like you're forced to take most of the notes. So the stuff that's said is as long as you mark it as you find it and mark it as you're told what to mark, you have that as a permanent record. You don't have a situation of like, yeah, there's this key that's in this obscure pot in Skull Woods that you have to remember.
Right. There's only one swamp small, right? There's only two castle tower smalls. So it feels, I don't know, it's just less information. But look, getting back to like the fun of it, like regardless of the mode, it would spend so much fun just watching all the races and actually just playing. I think that's, regardless of the mode, it's fun to play with your friends. So that was a real positive for the league being back. Like it's been fun just watching all of the races that are going on like all the time. I really enjoy that.
I love League, dude. Like just in general. Like I absolutely love the League. I love playing with these two clowns. I love getting to play against friends and do different things. I love that it moved to 4 co-op in the regular season this year. I loved the playoff structure last year. I know that there was some mixed takes from some folks on it. Like they were like, if we're going to have solo modes in the main season, like we should have solo modes in playoffs. But I disagree. Like I think that this playoff structure of having like the different co-op modes as your playoff matches, like it's a win all around for me, dude. I just love co-op.
Yeah, I think the 4 weeks of co-op can be stressful, but I think the addition of the async is smart, and then having all 4 modes available for the playoffs. I don't know. I think that was definitely smart.
Yeah, and those were the things we were looking at. Like, not to get like just a brief rundown. It was like that was kind of the stuff we looked at. Was like, there's 4 modes during the regular season, or like there's 4 modes in playoffs. Let's try to make sure that what you're playing during the regular season matches the playoff structure, so it's not, you know, the new surprise mode in the playoffs. And then we recognize the fact that like we've seen schedules can get rough sometimes. So let's put the option out there. Let's try to make this as fair as possible, but not be like, you know, just let somebody run just over people and be like, I can only play this 1 hour block. Like if you're going to go that route, like you're going to have a tough time in this. Like, please be honest about your own schedule. We don't want this to get out of hand. Like part of the fun is not just, you know, playing with each other, but also having an actual race happening.
Yes, full agree. I will say, with like speaking of like, you know, admin decisions, rules, scheduling, things like that, Jesse, I know with some other changes that happened this year that there were some kind of funny things.
Yeah.
Hit us with it.
Yeah, apparently reading is not fundamental at times. Not mad at anybody, but we had at least a couple of races this week where people were still on delay. You know,
I think I read it and I think I knew, but I did the kickoff race and I think Nobly was like 6 minutes behind. It ended up being just a speed gaming thing, but I was like, is there a 10-minute delay? I didn't know.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I think we had at least one race where somebody had a full 10-minute delay, and you know, you feel bad. We tried to make sure that our announcements had it in there, like not just the league doc, because yeah, I get that league doc, like where does people want to read is I want to see what the modes are this season, what the structure is, kind of stuff. So that's going to be your first focus. But we had hoped, I think we put it in at least one of the league announcements of like no delay is like one of the big things this season, and still having some people use it. It's like, we wish you read it a little bit, but okay. Like, this is definitely something that we hope that, it was down to what, us and Maine as the last bastions of the delay. And, and I know Cross Keys has done it, like Alzen's had it as an option for his side as well. But like, as the three.
Does anybody actually choose to use delay in Cross Keys? Like,
to my knowledge, I haven't seen it happen, but like, I know.
I'm sure there's a race every year that does it, but I'm not sure.
And I think my understanding from that perspective has always been like, if it's somebody you don't know, like if it was my first year in the scene and then I race Fear, like I wouldn't be shocked if Fear's like, I don't know you, so I want to maybe put delay just in case. Like, I think that's kind of what it used to be, was I just don't know you.
And I think that's a fair reason to, say like, hey, I would feel more comfortable with delay. Like if I don't know somebody and they are like up and like, I don't want to say up and coming, but like they're doing really well very quickly. Like I could see wanting to feel more comfortable having done delay, right?
And yeah, and so, when we had the discussion as admins, it was kind of like we saw how things have gone with the main. Like it wasn't a bad idea. I don't think it's ever wrong to have kept the delay, but I think what we have found is the difference it makes probably just wasn't there anymore in the grand scheme of things.
I'm glad it's gone.
I am too. I think too, like, and maybe this is a like weak take, but like the whole point of delay is as an anti-cheating mechanism, right?
Yes.
And from what I've seen of like, banned runners or whatever, delay isn't necessarily stopping people from cheating. It's just making it slightly more difficult for them to. But I'd also say it makes it slightly more difficult to like catch them. And maybe that's a take. But I think that like having no delay is something that like, I think it's going to ideally hopefully help the community feel a bit more trusting of one another. Which then can be its own.
That's not going to happen. That's a lofty idea.
Like, but I will say a different angle on it is like, I think you're right in the standpoint of like, did we, if you look at the data of who has been banned in the last year and a half since Tark's, inception or end of council, like, you can look at who was for what, and was it always, delayed races? There were some, but there were plenty that were not delayed. Right. I think the other thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about is the changing of the scene in general. Like, Fear's talking about the modes that we've kind of become more commonplace. That extends to the idea of delay of, if I'm racing somebody in cross keys, does 10 minutes really make that big of a difference from a delay standpoint? Like, to
and it's
really
a complicated mode.
To have I'll call it security theater of it, is like, to really feel like it would make a big difference, we're talking, how many more minutes of delay for it to really make a substantial difference. And at that point, like, how much do you want to hassle your community to say you have to play with 30-minute delay on cross keys now? Because, that's an amount of time that could realistically make a difference. Nobody wants to deal with that.
Mm-mm.
It seems like something that is just not needed anymore, or not necessary. It doesn't actually help, I feel like, prevent cheaters. So what's the point, right?
Yeah. I think, again, like Jesse nailed it, like calling it security theater, because it is like, it's makes you feel better in the moment, but is it really helpful? And yeah, I'm glad it's gone. I hope that Maine does the same. But we'll see, because that's then.
Well, and it's, we're talking how many months until Maine, like, for all we know, something terrible is going to, like, I hate to even think the idea, but, we could have a massive cheating scandal, and then everybody's like, well, this was a bad idea. It's your guys' fault for saying no delay this year. So
hashtag blame Jesse.
Yep. Sure.
So I'll say, with week 1 being what it was with co-op AD, I know you do not speak for all admins, Jesse. You speak for you. Would you want to see co-op AD KDB back next year? You personally, as a runner.
As a runner, I enjoyed the mode, but do I think that is an argument maybe for the mode staying? Not necessarily. Leo, you and I are, we've teamed on plenty of stuff. Like, I know your personal feelings about Pilot Spoiler. You love that mode. That's one of your favorite modes. And I enjoy the mode too. Like, I have fun with it. We don't have that mode this year. So there's a health aspect to the league, to the community, that in my position, I can't say that, I will stand behind the mode for sure. Like, I think it was a fun mode. I had a good time with it. It seemed like we have a lot of division on it. We had some people who definitely hate it, and we had some people who enjoyed it. And that's going to be true of any season. I know we're coming up on Boss Hunt this week, and it's another mixed bag of emotion because it's an open mode and not everybody's a big fan of open. But I will say week 3, I think we've had universal, I haven't heard people who dislike duality. So it's one of those things. It's you move on and you say what worked well, what didn't, and we'll change it up if necessary. It's 7 modes, and I think this season we pretty much said there is no sacred mode for the league, and we're gonna take a chance, and if it works, great, awesome, and if there's a stumbling block this season, you reevaluate and find different modes.
Speaking of sacred mode, and I know you said there is no sacred mode, but the community does really, I think, have opinions on the removal of co-op AD.
Sure.
Do you potentially see that as a return in future seasons?
I can't say one way or the other how I would feel there. I think I could see it happening. I just don't know if, what evolves in the next bit. It's could we say AD KDB comes back next season as maybe a solo mode instead? Sure. You don't know what, we've had a lot of feedback saying we like that mode as solo. Okay. I think it's, finding 4 good co-op modes or enough co-op modes to fill the season is a big deal, and to keep that competitive balance a bit. So
yeah, I think that's good. I'm going to just, poke admin friend bias. Please bring back Pice Boy next year. Anyway, yeah, with that, you mentioned Boss Hunt this week, and, some people liking it because of open, some people not liking it because of open. I know another big thing people will talk about is illusion of choice, and we can talk probably more about that next week after having played our races for the week. I'll ask you, Fear, do you guys have any races scheduled for Boss Hunt yet?
Yeah, I'm about to race in a couple hours for this.
Who are you racing?
Yeah. Ahab.
Okay. So
And
you guys have the hook and lamp.
Yeah, so Beer's racing TJ sometime this week. I'm not sure. Maybe tomorrow. That's
right. I do remember Jamo saying that he was going to have the week off in the interview, and the potential for Jesse and Jamo to get to have their potential inverted matchup.
Yeah. I would rather. Yeah. I mean, again, this is more fearagent shit talking the modes of the league, but this mode's awful. This mode sucks so much because it is the illusion. I would rather just play it open, just give us regular open. And again, maybe people don't like to race open anymore, but so many times I've done practices, and it's like 2 runners playing different seeds, and I don't know if that just seems weird to me that we both can complete a seed by doing completely different things, and not a fan.
See, I think that can be really interesting, the ability to complete a seed by doing 2 different things. I don't mind that. I think the bigger issue is when it looks like you'll have that opportunity and then it just doesn't. But I've only done my practices. I know this Friday at 7 Eastern I'm racing Pichu, as was specifically requested by one GFE at the end of his race. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure. I think more than anything, I'm looking forward to racing Pichu. When I saw that we were playing Past the Potence this week, I kind of told the guys, like, I low-key want to race Pichu, but I didn't want to, like, push for it because I knew my work schedule could potentially be, you know, awful. Like, it just depends. And I know Pichu is, I'm pretty sure, East Coast or Eastern time zone. So with me being Pacific, she being Eastern time zone, I wasn't 100% certain it would work out, but, you know, thanks work scheduling me 3 days off this week. And then, yeah, I'm excited. And then I think we've got Kaesden versus James happening.
Yep. They'll be happening at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on Saturday. Just got it submitted this morning.
Oh, heck yeah. So yeah, by the end of the weekend, we'll have some results. And by the end of the day, we'll have at least one result for 3 off the tee.
Yeah. Can I ask you one thing?
Yeah.
This is new to the league because there's less teams in the divisions. We are actually not in the same division.
Right.
And so I was looking at the schedule this morning, and there's 4 teams in your division went
0-2.
0-2. Yeah, like isn't that? I don't know. What do you guys thoughts about playing out of division? I think it's cool, and I think it's an interesting solution to the problem that the admins have with less teams. But I don't know. Any thoughts?
I think it's a good solution to product of circumstance. Like, I think it would be more ideal to have had 32 teams in Invitational, so you don't have to do that. But with the shorter list of teams, I think that's about the best way to handle that and keep things as fair as possible. Like, it works. It is kind of neat to be able to play one extra team that's not in your division as well. Like, it's fun. The more people you get to play, I always enjoy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, of course, like, opening the season 0-2 sucks and it feels bad. And I don't know, and Jesse, you might have to correct me on this if I'm completely off base, but I don't think that there's any specific, like, the points or tiebreaker races, if needed, from your out of division or cross division games way less than your in division races. Like, I know the point wise, it's the same, right? Like, they're exactly the same. You get 3 points if you win, 1 point if you tie. But
yeah, I mean, I'd have to look again at what we have for the tiebreaker rules. It's not like I know we went over them and we have them written down. I don't remember exactly how that was enumerated out off the top of my head right now at this moment.
I want to say, because we had interdivisional matches in season 3, I think, which was our first season. Yeah, for open. And so I know that gosh, I'm trying to think back because this was like forever ago. I want to say that year, because that was Please Clap and Amish year, yeah? Yes. Like, we played a couple different teams. I think our division in particular only had 6.
Yeah, and that's very similar to the Open this season. Is we have 2 divisions of 6 and 2 divisions of 7. So the divisions of 7 are being handled the same way the Invitational 7-team divisions are being handled. And then for the 6-team divisions, what we did there is we have them playing cross division for the first 2 weeks of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So all of their matchups right now are across to the other in that side, and so then the whole rest of the season, starting in week 3, they will be within their own division from there on out. Yeah,
and looking back, that's exactly what happened with season 3. Like, the teams that had 6, like, we played 2. Our 2 interdivision were week 1 and 2, from what it looks like. I feel like, if I remember right, and maybe I'm just totally misremembering, but I feel like there was some kind of potential tiebreaker situation on our end that it was something like your head-to-heads and whatever in your division counted first, and then it went into your interdivision after, but I don't quite remember. So either way, I don't mind playing interdivision. I think it's fun to play other teams. I think that it's going to make things very interesting by the end as far as scores go.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how records shake out because of there's, again, I think it's a smart decision to do it, or basically the only decision that they had as far as scheduling goes. But it'll be interesting to see how it affects, divisions and playoffs and seedings and stuff.
For sure.
Because not everyone has the same quality of opponent, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, there's better teams and there's worse teams. That's not trying to be mean, but it's just the truth. And, sometimes you get paired up and sometimes you get paired down, and it's not going to be all equal. So it'll just be interesting to see how everything kind of shakes out. It's fun.
Well, I know if I remember right, the way that they paired the interdivisionals was like every team kind of started with a like seed, I think.
I don't remember if that's exactly like
accurate.
Yeah, I can't say for sure. It's, that's the thing is, I think Fear nailed it. It's one of those things you hope that things work out pretty evenly, but how can you say it's even regardless? It's like, 3 off the tee got us, and then, you look at who else is in each division. It's like somebody's going to play, like I'd say we were roughly like even-ish teams on paper. So that, but somebody is going to play a team that they might have a huge advantage. So
like who gets to play, like who's the cross division team for used bow, who I think is like the favorite in the league?
Let me look really quick. I have it open.
Like they're I don't care who else they have in their division. They got kind of screwed because they got to play used bow
at the end of the season.
Yeah, they play Pugs on
so
week 7.
Like, so Pugs kind of got screwed.
To watch.
That's a hell of a matchup. Like,
so I don't know.
No, I agree, and I think too. Not only is it that, but like one of the things we noticed, like whenever we saw that we were paired up with you guys, is like, well, crap. This is a team that we know has been putting in the practice time because we see y'all on the asyncs for AD KDB. Like, shit, they've been practicing as much as we have, if not, like more potentially that aren't posted. It's like we're gonna have our hands full.
Giammo ran through all 10, by the way, so we did more than the 10 on there because we ran some.
Same. Yeah. We ran all the asyncs, some combination of us, plus several just rolled and race rooms here and there. Like
started this year. I told my stream, I was like, I'm gonna keep track of how much I stream Zelda. I was like, every time I run something on stream, I will mark it as a day that I streamed Zelda this year. And I checked this when we were talking about the mode, and I looked, I ran at least 7 80 KDBs that were not my league race on stream, and that doesn't count the practices off stream. So yeah,
we have a lot of those too. Like a lot of just like nighttime, the 3 of us, and then Zafikel would pop in and be like our pseudo fourth to kind of help us be able to practice. And first of all, thanks Zaf for doing that. Second of all, we played an obnoxious amount of co-op AD KDB.
Yeah, after that race on Monday night that we had, I said to them both, I was like, over the last 3 days, I think I've run 6 80 KDBs over like 3 days. I was like, I need a break from 80 KD. I can't.
Yeah.
When Jesse gets burnt out of Zelda, something, there's been a lot of gaming because Jesse will play a lot of Zelda and not even blink at it. When you get to the point of burnout, it's like, okay, yeah, we've played too much. We need to take a step back.
For sure. Well,
we had some days with, I think you had like 3 seeds in a day even, didn't you?
Jeez.
Potentially.
Between like an inverted race and like maybe we did something in the afternoon and then another thing at night. It's just like, yeah, that's too much. You can do that once in a while, but you can't keep that up. You're going to just be done.
That's a lot of rando. But also, like, I remember when we were kind of first starting out, not obviously Jesse's not first starting out, but like when we were gearing up for tournaments, we would do that same kind of thing, especially during COVID when everything was shut down and remote anyway. Like, we were whipping out like 2-3 seeds a day of like shorter modes, like, you know, Cas Boots, Open, whatever, but still. But also, these are long modes. These are long ass modes that you're playing, sir.
But shows you how good the community is because we're playing 80 KD co-op and they're like 130 average, 140 average. It's like,
yeah,
it's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, the practice did show this week. Like, you know, I think you guys talked about it, Fear, when you commed with Moogle about that, the one race. It was like, you know, talking about what times we saw for 80 co-op in past years and what people were putting up for 80 KD this week. Like, the ability of the community to adapt and figure out how to play a mode really was highlighted this week with a lot of those races.
Yeah.
If you just look back at our own practice, like the first couple seeds we did, I think we were in like the 150s, and then we would look at the results and see like Gem and Telethar, who've been playing this forever, with 130s, and we're like, oh, yeah, we got some work to do. We got to figure things out because that's not going to cut it. It's not even close. So like we had a long way to go, and we got pretty far, but like there's still work to do on it.
It just means more 80 KDB play. Oh wait, no, that week is done.
Playoffs.
That's true. That is very, very true.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get in there.
Look, no, you have to have.
Look,
you
we're
have
gonna
to
try.
believe. We're gonna try. We've got some scary matchups up ahead for sure. This week is not a given at all. This week is just gonna be fun as fuck. I'm excited for the rest of the season. I don't know about you guys.
I'm super
Don't
excited.
everybody be excited at once.
No,
Yeah.
I'm super excited. We're 2-0. We'll see how this week goes. And then, you know, if we could start 4-0, it just feels like it's not like locking us for the playoffs, but it feels like a good track to get there for sure. So see if we can pull it off.
Maybe we'll meet again in playoffs.
Maybe. It's tough.
Maybe
I'm
we'll
looking at
have-
it as a division.
Yeah.
And starting 0-2 is pretty tough in that division.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
this week with the boss hunt, you know, the open mode, we talked about it, and I am calling lots of upsets for this week that are going to shock people just because of how crazy this mode can get. Yeah. And then, you know, we've looked at our season schedule. There's no lacking week. It's, you know, oh, Atomizer, Kaze and I might play, and it's like, oh, who do we get that week? Oh, we got GFE, Julo, and P-Train. We got people who love Atomizer in Atomizer week. Like, thanks.
Yep. I think too, it's one of those things, like there's a little bit of pressure, I think too, where the last 2 seasons we made playoffs and then got eliminated in the first round of playoffs. And there's a bit of pressure always to like not do worse than your previous year. But at the same time, I think in the past, and you guys can agree, disagree, whichever you prefer, but I think we got very lucky with some of our matchups in the past of like not necessarily the who, but the win.
Well, I mean, the 3 of us have talked about this, and I don't know if we really covered this with you, Fear, but like the year we played you guys in Cross Keys, like we went in with a plan of saying, best case, we're splitting Cross Keys week. And
that was
like
last season, wasn't it?
It might have been like we had you guys, and it was you and Gamma. We're playing Cross Keys, and like we went into that week, and I was like, our best chance for a win is me playing you. Like, I feel like you and I is an even matchup, and I felt like I'm not going to beat Gamma in a race. So like,
just throw me at Gamma.
Sacrificial lamb.
100%. That's what it was. It's like, we know, like, could I pull out a win in this? Sure. Is it going to happen? Probably not.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that like you don't think about too much when it comes to a season of like how you play out, how you schedule, how you approach a thread with people. You know each other, so you know what to expect, and you think, what's the best way to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We ended up both losing to the same team in the playoffs too, I think, that season. Don't forget to track us. They beat you guys, then they beat us, and then they beat
us.
And then they lost to to Infinity and Peacock. So
who ended up winning the whole damn thing. So like, you know, that's not too bad. That's good. I will say, like, I still feel a little on the salty side, like thinking back about that pilot spoiler playoff race. And like, I just legitimately, like, I made just bad routing calls. And I know I made bad routing calls, and it still like eats at me a little bit. But that's what happens. And you live and you learn.
You were also on such limited playtime back then, too. Like, it's hard to fully blame that when, like, you know, it's like you just weren't able to play and practice more than like a seed every once in a while, really.
Yeah, like more of my practice was just running through the sim on my phone. Like that was my practice then. God, I'm so glad that is not the case now. But yeah, with that, I'm excited for this week. I'm excited to see what happens, and I don't think I have anything else to really add here.
Good luck, guys, going forward.
Yeah, good luck to you, Fear,
to you
and
as well.
to the rest of your team.
Yeah, and thanks for letting us do this, and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah,
This grand experiment of letting us talk shit every week.
I love it. Excited to hear it.
Maybe we will throw in some random shenanigans too. Who knows? But yeah, until next week, gamers, good luck to all the league runners, and have a wonderful week.